Okay, so a little bit about me. All right, let me tell you. My route to stand before you is kind of a circuitous one, but it started with getting my bachelor's in biology and then my master's in physical therapy. And my area of expertise really has become, over the last decade or so, weight loss, and particularly weight loss for women over 35. And I wish we had some of those here tonight. But I'll just do it anyway. And then, of course, you cannot help hundreds of people lose weight without eventually, whether you want to or not, learn a thing or two about motivation. Why is it we never seem to run out of pounds to lose before we run out of motivation? Why is that? So over probably the last 3 years, I've studied motivation extensively. What is it? And most importantly, when we don't have any of it, how can we get it? And so we'll talk a little bit about that tonight. And lastly, fibromyalgia. And I come to the knowledge about fibromyalgia through a personal experience. I was actually diagnosed with it in 1996. And just for my curiosity's sake, how many of you have heard of fibromyalgia? Okay. Anybody have it? I mean, if you're comfortable raising your hand, fine. Okay. All right. So then you know that it is a chronic pain syndrome. Basically, you're racked with pain, like you have the flu aches all the time. A hallmark is fatigue. Fatigue is worse in the morning. Back in 1996, when I was diagnosed with that, you can see me here. The happy face is not an act. Yeah, I was not so happy. Why wasn't I happy? Well, it's over here. I was racked with pain, no energy, depressed, overweight. This was, you know, at 36, I had been struggling with my weight for 20 years already. Maybe, I think I went on my first diet at the age of 12. So that makes it really more like 24 years. And I didn't eat well. I was a sugar addict. A sugar addict. You cannot compare with my sugar addictness. So I just was on a downward spiral and stuck in this vicious cycle. Maybe you can relate to this. Overweight led me to being depressed. Being depressed led me to having pain worsen with fibromyalgia. The depression and the pain led me to want to self-medicate with food, which made me more overweight, which made me more depressed, which worsened my pain, and so on and so on and so on, until finally in 2000 I hit a personal rock bottom. And at that time I had fortunately graduated from a college with my master's degree where they had done a really good job of training us of how to evaluate the research. And I decided that I was going to swear off the diet bestsellers, and I was going to turn my attention and focus to look at the research and find out what real people did to lose weight and reclaim their health. And so for the next year, that's exactly what I did. I learned about that, and as I learned, I implemented changes. I did that lifestyle change that we talk about. And the interesting thing was, and probably the most surprising thing, was that the information I received by looking at the research and the experts was vastly different than the information presented in the diet books. Is that kind of surprising? Yeah, vastly different. And it was so much more doable, so much more doable. And so I proceeded to do that, lost weight. I've been at my goal weight now for 7 years, and I've had a baby in between. And after I had the baby, I didn't go on a diet. I just went back to living the lifestyle change, and the weight came off. No pain and suffering. So what am I doing differently now? Well, a sensible, healthy diet. Before, I always tried to be perfect, You know, I got the diet book and it said to eat these foods at this time, this way, standing on one leg, this hand behind your back. I tried to follow it exactly like it said, and then if I wasn't following it exactly like I said, I was telling myself I failed. And so back and forth. Do you relate to that, by the way? All or nothing, over and over and over again. And so now what I do is I took being perfect off the to-do list. Off. Not even trying for it anymore. Instead, just eating sensibly, eating pretty good. Always leaving room for some of the foods that were meant for us to just enjoy for the simple purpose of pleasure. All right, we got to have some of those. I exercise regularly, but not excessively. So the recommendations we hear, things like Americans should be exercising 5 to 7 times per week for 30 minutes or more at a moderate or higher intensity. Have we heard recommendations like that? And what do we do when we hear those recommendations? Why? What? We don't do them? Why? Too much. Who's busy? Yeah, we're busy. And again, with that all or nothing thinking, I hear that. I can't do it perfectly, so I'm not going to do it at all, right? Well, the sad part about that story, the 5 to 7 days a week story, is it doesn't convey to us even more important information we can glean from the research. And that is that we will benefit exponentially, health-wise, stress-wise, weight-wise, if we exercise just 1 time per week. Get it up to twice, and now you're really scoring a home run. And that's the side of things that we don't hear. I don't know why we don't hear it, but I'm here to pass that message on. Because when I realized that I could be successful on weeks that I could only fit in 1 or 2 workouts, I started feeling good about what I was doing instead of always walking around feeling bad about it. And you know, it's interesting, when you start feeling good about something, you want to do more of it. And so it's just the opposite of that downward spiral. It becomes an upward spiral. Little to no pain anymore. So now I mentioned before that when I had fibromyalgia, or when I had the symptoms of fibromyalgia, I should say that I was racked with pain. And I also mentioned that I was a sugar addict. Now here's the extent of my addiction. I was so addicted to sugar that I did not want to waste a calorie on a carrot or a bit of lettuce, because I could eat a cookie with that calorie. And so I never got, you know, more than 40 or 50 pounds overweight, but my weight control plan was only eating the sugar foods and nothing else. Now, can you imagine that the body starts to not feel so good when it doesn't have the nutritional building blocks coming in to heal with? So if anybody is experiencing fibromyalgia, one of the messages that I want to share with you is that as you start bringing in fruits, vegetables, whole foods, the body can begin to heal. And it's going to take a few months, maybe a year, to complete that healing process, but it's entirely possible. We just have to start by giving it the building blocks it needs to change. So I have lots of energy now, and I feel great. Do I still have fibromyalgia? Heck if I know. I don't know. I know I feel good, so if you look at my muscles under a microscope, I don't know what it'll show you, but I certainly don't suffer from the symptoms anymore. Okay, now I do want to say before we move on to this slide that I've shared a lot about my background, and it may sound to you at this point like, well, this is all about Zoe. But it's not. This is not about me at all. And I want to make that very clear, because when I went through the strife that I went through and all those years of struggling with my weight, and I finally found a way out, then I knew immediately that what I had to do with my life was to share this information with other women who were overwhelmed like I was. And so this is not about me. This is about the message. It's about the information, and it's about helping women like you get liberated from the dysfunction with food, the dysfunction with weight, and start living a life and living in a body that it feels good to live in again. So I just want to make sure we're completely clear on that, because that is why I'm here, and that's my personal and professional passion. So, okay, so are you frustrated? Yeah? Okay. A little bit frustrated or a lot frustrated? A lot. All right. 1 to 10. 1, totally not frustrated at all. 10, I'm so frustrated, I'm going to shoot my husband. Poor guys. They always get it. Everybody who's below a 5, raise your hand. Oh, notice that it's primarily people who finished the challenge that are below a 5. Yes! Love it. Okay, everybody above a 5, 5 to 7, raise your hand. Okay, 7 to 10, raise your hand. Or 8 to 10, I guess. Okay. Did I leave anybody out? All right. Now, why did I have you raise your hands? First and foremost, so that you realize you're not alone. We are not alone in our struggle. We are struggling right along with about 1 million other American women and men in this area. And once we realize that, we can pull together as women and start using the support for each other to get through those tough times and make the change. Today, most importantly, we're starting to end that frustration and creating the new you. And I implore all of you to start creating yours today.